Before this video begins, I want to thank all of you for helping my first recap video reach over 20,000 views, the most I've ever gotten on a video. I also just reached 100 subscribers, and I can't be more thankful. The next goal is 200, and you can help by clicking the subscribe button. Now back to your regularly scheduled recap. Hello. Today I'm going to recap a Japanese-American animated film from 1989 titled Little Nemo, Adventures in Slumberland. The movie is based on the American comic strip Little Nemo by Winsor McCay, about a boy who has fantastical adventures in his dreams. With that out of the way, let's begin. The film opens with our protagonist, Nemo, asleep in his bed. Suddenly, his bed rises off the ground and flies out the window. Waking up, Nemo realizes he's flying down the street. While surprised at first, he soon begins to enjoy flying through the city and into the sky. However, things take a dark turn and he finds himself flying through a ruined city. His bed then falls down at alarming speed, and he soon finds himself being chased by a steam locomotive. Despite his best efforts, he's unable to loose the train. It eventually corners him at his house, destroying it and sending him flying. However, he then falls out of his bed, revealing the whole thing to be a dream. Fun fact, this opening traumatized me as a kid. Later that day, Nemo sees a parade is taking place and decides to check it out with his best friend Icarus, a flying squirrel. The two arrive at the parade and see it's for a circus that's just arrived in town. They see a cast of colorful characters including an organ player, a princess, a clown, and the ringleader, who offers Nemo a ride on his horse. Nemo returns home and asks his father to take him to the circus, but his father is too busy and leaves for work, leaving Nemo upset. That night, Nemo pretends to sleepwalk in order to sneak downstairs and steal some pie, breaking a promise he made to his mother. His mother ends up catching him, and Nemo runs back to his room in defeat. Later, Nemo's room is visited by a group of figures resembling the people from the circus parade. They're led by a man named Professor Genius, who says that he's been sent by King Morpheus, the ruler of a place called Slumberland. The king has asked Nemo to become the playmate of his daughter Princess Camille. Nemo is hesitant at the thought of playing with a girl, but quickly changes his mind when he's given a chest full of cookies from the princess.
Wow, this is great! I love the princess! I love girls!
Nemo is taken aboard the king's dirigible, which soon heads off towards Slumberland. He's given the chance to drive, but makes a mess of it as they fly into a storm. Thankfully they make it out and arrive in Slumberland, where they're greeted by its citizens, including a mischievous individual known as Flip. Nemo is taken before the king, only to find that he's gone missing. As the professor and guards search for him, Flip introduces himself and offers to help Nemo find the king using his map of Slumberland. Flip takes Nemo to an upside-down hallway, where Nemo ends up falling onto a swirling staircase. It takes him to a room filled with toys, where he meets a man dressed as a train engineer. He helps him fix his toy train, and the two take a ride throughout the castle. The two run into the professor, who tells Nemo that the engineer is in fact King Morpheus. The king tells Nemo that there is another reason he was brought to Slumberland, to serve as the heir to the throne. He gives Nemo the gold key, which can open any door in Slumberland. However, he's told never to open the door with a dragon insignia on it. The king then has the professor take Nemo to meet with his daughter Camille. The two are left alone, and Camille seems unimpressed with Nemo, even insulting Icarus by calling him a rat. Honestly, I'd act the same way if some random kid took my place on the throne. Nemo reacts harshly to her words, saying that being a princess is no excuse for treating a guest this way. This somehow changes the princess's tune, and she apologizes for her actions. While asking for an apology for both of them, Nemo accidentally calls Icarus a rat. He runs off in a huff, and after a quick struggle, the two make up. Nemo and Camille go off and explore Slumberland, coming across friendly alligators, colorful floating balls, and giant butterflies. Afterward, Nemo is taken to receive schooling on how to be a prince, leaving Camille and Icarus behind. Following a musical and chaotic crash course in being a prince, Nemo once again meets up with Flip. He tells Nemo that with him, he can be a prince of mischief. Disguising Nemo with his clothes, Flip takes him out to cause some chaos, or as he says, have fun. The two prank the police force, interrupt a concert by making a dinosaur sneeze, and light off the fireworks for Nemo's coronation. But one of the fireworks causes them to crash, causing them to once again have to run from the police. Nemo crashes into a pig statue, which reveals a hidden passageway that the two use to escape the police.
Nobody gives him the slip like old Flip.
The two decide to explore the passageway and come across a large, locked door. Nemo realizes that it's the door the king told him never to open. However, Flip thinks that they should open it for fun. Despite his reservations, Nemo eventually agrees. When they open the door, they find a dark entity behind it. They're able to shut the door, but Flip runs off before Nemo can relock it and get the key. Reluctantly, Nemo leaves the door and key behind. Later that night, the citizens of Slumberland gather for Nemo's coronation. Nemo and Flip arrive just in time, and Nemo is readied for the event, while Flip sneaks in.
Alright.
The king decrees that as prince, Nemo will be responsible for guarding Slumberland from the Nightmare King, using the royal scepter. After demonstrating its power, he explains that he won't inherit the scepter until he's grown in spirit and strength. With that, Nemo is crowned Prince of Slumberland, and the celebrations begin. As the king and professor dance, Nemo realizes his mistake and decides to go and get the key. However, by then it's too late, and the Nightmare King escapes. Nemo rushes back to the castle and tries to warn the king, but he's too distracted with his dancing. Eventually, the Nightmare King reaches the castle and captures Morpheus. Nemo tries to give him the scepter, but he's too late and the Nightmare King takes Morpheus away. The professor asks who opened the forbidden door, and the blame quickly falls on Flip due to his past. However, Flip blames Nemo, as he was the one who had the key. This leaves everyone surprised, despite Nemo claiming it wasn't his fault. As the crowd gathers around him, Nemo suddenly wakes up in his room, believing everything to just be a dream. However, he then finds the royal scepter in his bed, meaning he's still inside the dream. He then hears the voice of King Morpheus and follows it downstairs. Suddenly, Nemo's house begins to flood, causing him and Icarus to be washed out to sea. They run into the professor, who tells them that the king has been taken to Nightmare Land. He tells Nemo not to blame himself, but Nemo says that he's the one who broke his promise. He then declares that he will find and rescue the king. Realizing they still have the royal scepter, they decide to head to Nightmare Land to return it to the king. Nemo remembers Flip has a map of Nightmare Land, and the professor says that he's to be banished into space for his actions, so they rush off to stop it. In Slumberland, Flip is being ready to be fired out of a cannon, while still being his normal self.
Blindfold? Are you kidding? I want to enjoy the show.
Nemo and the professor arrive in Slumberland and make it just in time to stop the cannon. Nemo demands the map, and Flip reluctantly gives it up. However, he reveals that the map is written in his own secret code, meaning only he can read it. Nemo says that Flip will lead them to Nightmare Land, and he agrees after another threat of cannonballing, as well as a good old punch to the face. Later, Nemo, Icarus, Camille, the professor, and Flip set sail towards Nightmare Land. They soon encounter a giant whirlpool which causes their boat to crash in Nightmare Land. Flip finds the map ruined by water, but doesn't inform the others. Pretending to know the way, he leads them in another direction while he tries to redraw the map. However, they run into a group of good shape-shifting goblins known as the Umps, who wish to help them rescue the king. That night, the group wonders about the incantation to use the scepter. However, this is interrupted when the Nightmare King sends a group of bats to attack the group. The bats manage to capture Flip, the professor and Camille. Nemo tries using the scepter but is unable to remember the full incantation. As he's attacked by the bats, he suddenly finds himself back in his room once again. Only this time the Umps are there as well. A second later, a fifth Ump crashes through Nemo's roof. The others say he was held prisoner by the Nightmare King for trying to help Morpheus. The Ump explains that he was sent by Morpheus to give Nemo the incantation in order to use the scepter. Icarus says that Nemo could die if he says the incantation, but Nemo is determined to save the king. The group decides to head for Nightmare Castle, so they hop on Nemo's bed and fly off to Nightmare Land. After flying through a portal in the sky, they escape a sea of nightmares before arriving at Nightmare Castle. The Nightmare King is informed that Nemo has arrived, and he uses his powers to pull him and the other into the castle. He attempts to capture them, but they manage to hide inside a secret passage. The king tells Nemo to give him the scepter, showing his captured friends to try and convince him. The king then brings out Morpheus and Nemo attempts to give him the scepter. The Nightmare King attacks him, but thankfully he's saved by the Umps. He's able to use the scepter to destroy the king's minion, but still can't say the full incantation. The king continues to taunt him, but Nemo manages to destroy one of his hands. Thanks to Icarus and the Umps, Nemo's able to say the full incantation, causing the scepter to pierce the Nightmare King and destroy him. Nightmare Land is freed from the king's control, and everyone is released from their prisons. However, Nemo seems to have been killed by using the scepter. Thankfully, King Morpheus is able to use the scepter to bring Nemo back to life. He forgives Nemo for releasing the Nightmare King, and says that his courage is what finally destroyed him. With the Nightmare King now gone, Nemo departs Slumberland for home. The king, Professor and Flip see him off, while Camille accompanies him. As the dirigible arrives back in his hometown, Nemo and Camille share a kiss. We then find ourselves back in Nemo's bedroom, where he's awoken from his dream by his mother. Nemo apologizes to her for breaking his promise not to steal pie, and she happily forgives him. Nemo's father then walks in and tells Nemo to get ready, as they've decided to go to the circus. Ready for what the day has in store, Nemo and Icarus happily look out the window as the movie ends. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this and want to see more, don't forget to like and subscribe. And leave a comment telling me what movie you'd like to see recapped next.